At the end of Terminator 2, the story was wrapped up nicely. Skynet was destroyed and the horrific future was averted. Well, we can throw that out the window. You might be thinking, how can they possibly write themselves out of this? The answer is a lot less interesting than it sounds. Terminator 3 takes place several years after the second entry. John Connor, prophesized leader of the resistance against the machines, is now a drifter, trying to survive. The horrible future that his mother warned him about has been prevented, but he still doesn't feel completely safe. One day he comes across Kate Brewster, a romantic interest from his youth who is tied to his destiny in a way that he never expected. Before long, they're both targeted by a new Terminator called the TX, which has taken the form of a female and comes equipped with all sorts of new weaponry and means of sabotage. They are saved by another Terminator, once again resembling the one from the first film, whose mission is to ensure the couple's survival. Does this sound familiar yet? Terminator 3 has no artistic reason to exist. The story was over and we were satisfied. It doesn't help that the narrative structure is noticeably similar to the second movie. The only difference is that while the second film was thought-provoking, this is filled with bombastic action and more special effects. The grim tone of the first two has been exercised, with more of an emphasis placed on dry comedy. While the previous films occasionally got a laugh due to dark humor,
Chill out, dickwad.
this can get downright silly, to the point where it borders on satire. However, given the high standard, it was difficult to envision new director Jonathan Mostow topping James Cameron with the same style. Thus, this newer, more lighthearted approach was taken. Playing John Connor is Nick Stahl, who does extremely well at putting his own spin on it. Although suitably more understated than Edward Furlong, he periodically displays the flashes of juvenile energy that let you know that you're seeing the same character, albeit a more broken version. You can see a guy who has been trained to put the weight of the world on his shoulders, lacking purpose in times of peace and deathly afraid of war. Stahl does a great job for what he's given, conveying all of this while making the character his own. Kate Brewster is played by Claire Danes. Yeah, before she was fighting terrorists, she was fighting machines. She gives a reasonably good performance as the skeptic and has decent chemistry with Stahl, but she can't help feeling like a downgrade from Sarah Connor. Speaking of which, Linda Hamilton is not in this film. We're told that her character died off-screen from leukemia. This feels like a slap in the face. Not only would it have been interesting to see Sarah's perspective on the supposed averted future, but killing off one of the most compelling characters in the franchise seems like a cheap way of disguising the fact that Hamilton refused to come back. All too often, we have seen the story of the chosen one who is destined to save the world. What made Sarah Connor so intriguing was getting to see this story from the perspective of the hero's mother, a character who is often shortchanged in these types of stories. Who we do get is Arnold Schwarzenegger, once again returning to the famous role. He's as reliable as ever, less empathetic than the second movie, and bringing some amusingly straight-faced non-reactions to many of the jokes. He's very natural in the role by now, comfortably fitting right back into the leather jacket and shades. Earl Bowen also comes back for a small cameo, which admittedly is a nice callback, but stretches the fabric of plausibility by having Dr. Silberman seemingly everywhere that the main characters are in every movie. Faring less well is Kristanna Loken, who is not the least bit menacing as the TX. Part of that can be traced to the film's tendency to play up her sex appeal, often for comedic effect. We are told that she is more dangerous than the other Terminators, sporting a plethora of high-tech weapons and being able to control other machines. However, never once does she strike any real fear. Looking back at the opposing Terminators of the past, especially the T-1000, we were afraid of them because of their mechanical movements and chilling ability to blend in. Logan's one-note, wooden performance just doesn't measure up, even with the more comedic style. One aspect of this movie that managed to impress, though, is the multitude of action scenes. They are loud and over the top, but they are staged and filmed so well that I found it difficult to look away. Granted, the film doesn't break these up with as much substance as its predecessors, and some of the wrecks border on cartoonish. However, the vehicular chases are exhilarating, never resorting to shaky cam and always having a high-octane feel. The shootouts, though a little overblown, are also fairly accomplished. On the other hand, some of the CGI hasn't aged particularly well, especially when the TX is shape-shifting. It's not bad, but it just doesn't feel as organic as the filmmakers probably intended. Marco Beltrami takes over from Brad Fiedel for the musical score, coming up with similarly simplistic themes. However, nearly all of them are louder, booming, and percussion-based. In the end, Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines utterly fails to reach the heights of its predecessors. However, that doesn't necessarily make it a bad movie. The characters are decent, the acting is surprisingly good, from most parties, and the action scenes are gleefully excessive and leave you on the edge of your seat. As a popcorn flick, it actually works. However, when you try to engage it on any level beyond that, it just doesn't resonate as deeply as those that came before.